Okay, guys, super quick video here on 6-8. We're just introducing how to graph radical equations, and we're really going to lean on our calculator here for help. Okay, so they're going to give you different equations that, of course, have radicals in them, and we are going to sketch a quick, accurate graph of those. So you're just going to want to type the equation into your y equals button. So this one is radical x minus 4. And then we can hit the graph button and take a look at that. Here, let me switch my window. Sorry, that was a terrible opening view there. Okay, one thing that you'll notice is that these graphs are shaped really either like this, or they could go the other way and be shaped like this. Okay, they have a starting point because we're going back to saying that you cannot take the square root of a negative number. Okay, so this is where we're going to start our long discussion on domain. Okay, I know that the lowest number that I can put in here is a 0. Okay, so I first want to figure out what can make that thing equal 0. So I take what's under the square root, just what's under the square root, and I set it equal to 0. Okay, when I add 4 to the other side here, I get that x equals 4. That's going to be the first number in my domain. Okay, that's going to be the first value of x that I can actually plug in here. Because if I plug in a 3, I get a negative number. I'd have the square root of negative 1. I'm not allowed to do that. If I plug in a 2, I'd have the square root of negative 2. Again, that's not allowed. Okay, so what I'm noticing is that my domain is going to be all x values that are greater than or equal to 4. Because I can put in 4, I can take the square root of 0. I can put in 5, I can put in 6, 7, 8, and that doesn't break any rules. Okay? Now, to graph this thing, I just literally want to look at my table of values. I want to start with the first number that doesn't say error. See, all these say error because they give you negative numbers. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a quick t-table here. And I'm going to try to find some values here that have whole numbers. So I know that I got 4 comma 0. I'm looking at that. I know that I got 5 comma 1. I'm looking at that one. I see here on my table that I have 8 comma 2. If I have 3 points, that's plenty, I think. 3 points. I can jot those down and draw my graph. Make sure you put an arrow on this side, but not on this side. Okay. Now the range here, when I look at range, I just really want to look at the graph. I'm looking at the y values that this graph covers. The lowest y value here is 0, so I know that all of my y's are going to be compared to 0. I just need to figure out what inequality symbol to put between my y and the 0. Now, the y values of the graph is going slightly upward, and it will go upward forever, so my range covers all y values that are greater than or equal to 0. Okay, we'll do one more and then we'll be done. Let's try this one. Negative 2 times radical x plus 1. Okay. So I'm typing that into my y equals button. And I can take a look at that graph. Notice that our shape now is flipped over. That's because there's the negative out front. Okay. When I can make my t-table, so I can go there now to look at that. Okay. Got my table here. I'm looking for values. Oh, I'm looking for the first value here when x is negative 1, y is 0. Then I have 0, negative 2, and I also have 3, negative 4. All right. Now again, when I want to find my domain here, first of all, I can tell that it starts at 1 and goes up from looking at my table. Okay, but I can always set what's underneath the radical, the x plus 1, equal to 0, because I know that's the lowest number that's allowed under a radical. When I subtract the 1, I can see that x equals negative 1 is going to be the lowest value. And since we're only allowed to have positive values under that radical, my domain will always be that the x is greater than or equal to that number that I found, negative 1. Okay. I will put these points on my graph, negative 1, 0, 0, negative 2, and 3, negative 4, and draw that general shape. Okay, now this time, again, the lowest that my range is going is 0, so I'm going to compare that y value to 0. This time, all of my range or my graph is going down, so I know that all my y's are less than or equal to 0. Okay, so use your calculator for help. We'll work on the domain and range part together. All right?